Today I'll be breaking down the most loved MCU villains and the most hated MCU villains. These are the characters that fans have either embraced wholeheartedly or feel were completely wasted on screen. If you enjoy this kind of content, make sure to subscribe and turn on notifications so you never miss a video. When discussing beloved MCU villains, there is no better place to start than Loki. Tom Hiddleston first brought the God of Mischief to life in Thor back in 2011, and he quickly became one of the most popular characters in the entire franchise. What makes Loki so special is his incredible journey from villain to anti-hero to eventual hero. In the first Thor film, he was driven by jealousy and a desire to prove himself worthy to his father Odin. By the Avengers in 2012, he had become a full antagonist, leading an alien invasion against Earth. But audiences never stopped loving him. There was always something sympathetic about Loki. His pain felt real. His motivations were understandable, even when his actions were not. Over the years, fans watched him slowly change. He fought alongside Thor in the Dark World, and again in Ragnarok. By the time Infinity War arrived, Loki had fully turned against Thanos and paid for it with his life. That death scene remains one of the most heartbreaking moments in the MCU. But his story did not end there. The 2012 variant of Loki, who escaped during the time heist in Endgame, became the focus of his own Disney Plus series. Across 2 seasons, this version of Loki went through his own transformation. He learned humility and found purpose. In the finale of Loki Season 2, he made the ultimate sacrifice, becoming the god of stories and holding the multiverse together. It was a fitting end for a character who started as a villain and became one of the greatest heroes the MCU has ever produced. On the opposite end of the spectrum, we have Taskmaster from Black Widow. This character is a perfect example of wasted potential in the MCU. In the comics, Taskmaster is one of the most formidable adversaries any hero can face. His ability to perfectly mimic any fighting style he observes makes him a tactical nightmare. He has gone up against Captain America, Spider-Man, and countless other heroes over the years. Fans were excited when it was announced that Taskmaster would appear in Black Widow. The trailers showed a menacing figure who could replicate the moves of multiple Avengers. It looked promising, but when the film arrived, many viewers felt disappointed. The MCU version of Taskmaster turned out to be Antonia Dreykov, the daughter of the main villain. While this twist attempted to add emotional weight to the story, it came at the cost of everything that made Taskmaster interesting in the source material. There was almost no personality to the character. Taskmaster barely spoke throughout the entire film. The mimicry abilities were shown, but they felt more like a gimmick than a genuine threat. By the end of the movie, Antonia was freed from her father's control, but audiences were left wondering what the point of using this character even was. The costume design was solid, and the action scenes were competent. But without the personality, the wit, and the mercenary nature that defines Taskmaster in the comics, this version fell completely flat for many viewers. It remains one of the most criticized villain adaptations in MCU history. Few villain performances in superhero cinema have achieved the legendary status of Willem Dafoe as the Green Goblin. He first appeared in Sam Raimi's Spider-Man in 2002, delivering a portrayal so memorable that it defined the character for an entire generation. Norman Osborn was terrifying and unpredictable. Dafoe brought an intensity that made every scene absolutely captivating. When it was announced he would return in Spider-Man No Way Home, fans were thrilled. 20 years after his original appearance, Dafoe stepped back into the role and somehow managed to be even better than before. The film brought multiverse versions of classic Spider-Man villains into the MCU, and Green Goblin emerged as the most dangerous of them all. In No Way Home, we see Norman struggle against the Goblin personality, creating genuine sympathy for his situation. But when the Goblin takes over, he becomes pure menace. The scene where he attacks Aunt May remains one of the most shocking moments in any Spider-Man film. Dafoe's physical commitment to the role was remarkable considering his age. He insisted on doing many of his own stunts. The fight scenes with Tom Holland's Spider-Man were brutal and visceral in ways the MCU rarely allows. Beyond the action, it was the psychological threat that made Green Goblin so effective. He got into Peter's head and challenged his morality. He forced Spider-Man to confront the consequences of trying to save everyone. This is why Green Goblin stands as one of the most beloved villains, not just in the MCU, but in superhero cinema as a whole. Avengers Age of Ultron introduced one of the most iconic villains from Marvel Comics history. Unfortunately, many fans feel that the film did not do justice to this legendary antagonist. In the source material, Ultron is a terrifying artificial intelligence created by Hank Pym. He repeatedly returns stronger than before, each time pushing the Avengers to their absolute limits. Comic readers have decades of stories where Ultron nearly destroys everything. The MCU version, voiced by James Spader, was certainly entertaining. Spader brought his unique delivery to the role, giving Ultron a sardonic wit that many found memorable. But this is also where some criticism comes from. Many fans expected a cold and calculating machine. Instead, they got a villain who made jokes and displayed very human emotions. The threat level also felt diminished. Ultron was defeated within a single film, which seemed rushed considering his comic book significance. There were moments where his power was apparent, particularly in the destruction of Sokovia, but the story moved quickly, and Ultron never felt like the world-ending menace he should have been. Another issue was how the film balanced multiple plot threads. Time was split between setting up future films, developing new Avengers, and exploring various character relationships. Ultron sometimes felt like a secondary concern in his own one movie. This left audiences with a sense that something was missing. The potential for a truly terrifying villain was there. James Spader certainly had the talent to deliver it, but the execution left many fans wishing the MCU had given Ultron more room to become the legendary threat he deserved to be. Thor Ragnarok introduced audiences to the goddess of death, and she immediately became one of the most powerful villains the MCU had ever seen. Cate Blanchett brought Hela to life with commanding presence and effortless menace. From her very first scene, it was clear that this was a threat unlike anything Thor had faced before. The moment Hela destroyed Mjolnir with her bare hand became instantly iconic. For years, that hammer had been a symbol of Thor's power. To see it shattered so casually established Hela as something truly formidable. But her strength went beyond physical power, her history made her fascinating. Hela was Odin's firstborn and his primary weapon during Asgard's Age of Conquest. Together they had conquered the 9 realms through violence and bloodshed. But Odin eventually changed, seeking peace instead of war. When Hela refused to accept this new direction, he imprisoned her and erased her from Asgardian history entirely. This revelation forced Thor and Loki to confront uncomfortable truths about their father and their kingdom. Asgard's golden image was built on conquest and blood. Hela represented that violent past. She returned to Asgard and slaughtered its armies with ease. She killed the Warriors 3 without hesitation. She seemed completely unstoppable. In the end, defeating her required the destruction of Asgard itself. Thor had to summon Surtur and trigger Ragnarok just to stop her. It was a price that showed just how dangerous she truly was. Blanchett's performance balanced theatrical villainy with genuine threat, making Hela an immediate fan favorite among MCU antagonists. Thor: Love and Thunder had tremendous potential with its villain. Gorr the God Butcher is one of the most compelling antagonists in modern Thor comics. Christian Bale, an Academy Award-winning actor, was cast in the role. On paper, this should have been a triumph. In the comics, Gorr's story is both tragic and terrifying. He was a devout believer whose prayers went unanswered, as his family died one by one. When he discovered that gods existed but simply did not care about mortal suffering, his faith transformed into rage. He obtained the Necro Sword, a weapon capable of killing deities, and embarked on a campaign to slaughter every god in existence. This motivation is deeply understandable. His methods are horrifying. That combination creates a compelling villain. Christian Bale brought genuine emotion to the role. In the scenes where Gorr discusses his loss, his pain is palpable. Bale committed fully to the physical transformation required for the character. The problem was screen time. Gorr appeared far less than audiences expected. The film spent considerable time on comedic subplots and the Guardians of the Galaxy cameo. When Gorr was on screen, he was effective, but those moments were too few. The God Butcher should have felt like an existential threat to the entire MCU. Instead, his rampage happened mostly off screen. We heard about the gods he killed, rather than witnessing his terror firsthand. The final confrontation felt rushed. Many fans left theaters feeling that one of the best Thor villains had been wasted. Christian Bale did excellent work with what he was given. The issue was simply not giving him enough material to work with. When discussing the greatest villains in cinematic history, Thanos deserves a place in that conversation. The Mad Titan was built up across multiple films before finally taking center stage in Avengers Infinity War. Josh Brolin brought the character to life through motion capture, creating a villain who felt genuinely three-dimensional. What separated Thanos from typical antagonists was his conviction. He believed he was saving the universe. In his mind, overpopulation would lead to the extinction of all life. His solution was horrific, but from his perspective, it was necessary. This made him more than a simple evil tyrant. He was a zealot who truly believed in his cause. Infinity War did something remarkable. It allowed Thanos to win. By the end of the film, he had collected all 6 Infinity Stones and erased half of all life in the universe with a single snap. Audiences sat in stunned silence as beloved heroes turned to dust. The villain had achieved his goal completely. This moment became a cultural phenomenon. References to the snap appeared everywhere. The idea of Thanos being right in some twisted way sparked genuine debate among viewers. He became the standard by which all future MCU villains would be measured. Beyond his ideology, Thanos was also physically imposing. He defeated the Hulk in combat within the first 10 minutes of Infinity War. He fought multiple Avengers simultaneously and won. Even without the Infinity Stones, he proved formidable. The emotional depth was equally important. His relationship with Gamora added genuine tragedy to his character. The sacrifice scene on Vormir showed he was capable of love, making his choices even more disturbing. Thanos was not just a great MCU villain. He became a great cinematic villain by any measure. Thor: The Dark World is frequently cited as one of the weaker entries in the MCU, and its villain is a major reason why. Christopher Eccleston played Malekith, the leader of the Dark Elves, and despite his considerable talent, the character left almost no impression on audiences. The problem began with the writing. Malekith wanted to use the Aether to plunge the universe into eternal darkness. This motivation is about as generic as villain plans get. There was nothing personal about his conflict with Thor. There was no nuance to his worldview. He was evil simply because the plot required him to be evil. Eccleston later spoke about his disappointment with the role. The extensive prosthetic makeup limited his ability to emote properly. Much of his dialogue was delivered in a fictional dark elf language, further reducing the connection with audiences. He felt more like a plot device than an actual character. Comparing Malekith to other Thor villains highlights the disparity clearly. Loki was charismatic and emotionally complex. Hela was powerful and commanded every scene she appeared in. Malekith simply existed to give Thor something to fight. The Dark World suffered from other issues as well, but the weak villain made it harder for the film to overcome its problems. Even fans who enjoy the movie rarely point to Malekith as a highlight. He represents a period in the MCU where villain development was often neglected. Studios focused heavily on heroes, while antagonists received minimal attention. Malekith is arguably the clearest example of this problem. He had the potential to be interesting. The Dark Elves as a concept could have worked effectively, but the execution failed to bring any of it to life in a meaningful or memorable way. Doctor Doom is widely considered the greatest villain in Marvel Comics history, and his arrival in the MCU has generated enormous excitement among fans. Victor Von Doom is the ruler of Latveria, a genius-level intellect who rivals Reed Richards of the Fantastic Four, and a master of both science and sorcery. His armor rivals anything Iron Man ever created, and his magical abilities put him among the most powerful beings in the Marvel Universe. In the comics, Doom is so formidable that he has challenged gods and emerged victorious. During the Secret Wars storyline, he literally became a god. He took power from the Beyonders and created Battleworld, a patchwork planet composed of fragments from destroyed universes. Doom ruled over this creation as God Emperor, demonstrating ambition beyond anything other villains have attempted. He was not satisfied with conquering Earth. He conquered reality itself. When it was announced at San Diego Comic-Con that Robert Downey Jr. would be returning to the MCU as Doctor Doom, the reaction was seismic. For years, Downey had been the face of the franchise as Tony Stark. His death in Endgame was a defining moment for the entire cinematic universe. Bringing him back as the ultimate villain creates fascinating possibilities for storytelling.
New mask, same task.
The casting choice has divided some fans, but many are thrilled by the potential. Downey has the charisma and acting ability to make Doom truly memorable. Having the former hero now playing the greatest villain adds weight to the character before he even appears on screen. There will be more detailed videos exploring theories about how this will unfold, but for now, Doctor Doom stands as one of the most anticipated additions to the MCU. Kang the Conqueror was positioned to be the next Thanos. After the success of Infinity War and Endgame, Marvel needed a new, overarching threat for their multiverse saga. Kang seemed like the perfect choice. His comic history is rich with time travel storylines and connections to countless characters. Jonathan Majors was cast in the role, and his introduction as He Who Remains in the Loki Season 1 finale was well received by audiences. That performance was mysterious and captivating, suggesting great things to come. Then problems began to emerge. Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania was meant to establish Kang as a serious threat. Instead, the film received mixed reviews from audiences and critics. The Quantum Realm setting felt disconnected from the wider MCU. Kang's defeat at the end of the movie seemed too easy for a villain meant to replace Thanos. Audiences left unconvinced that he was the menace the story claimed him to be. The situation became more complicated when Jonathan Majors faced legal issues off screen. Without detailing those matters here, it is enough to say that Marvel eventually parted ways with the actor. This left the multiverse saga without its central villain. Plans had to change significantly. The build-up that began with Loki suddenly led nowhere. Years of storytelling felt undermined by circumstances beyond the films themselves. Kang's failure as an MCU villain came from multiple directions. The films did not effectively sell his threat level. The off-screen circumstances made it impossible to continue with original plans. What should have been the next great era of Marvel storytelling instead became a cautionary tale about how external factors can derail carefully constructed narratives. Kang will likely be remembered primarily as a missed opportunity. That covers the most loved and most hated villains in the MCU. If you enjoyed this video, make sure to leave a like and subscribe to the channel. Turn on notifications so you never miss future content. See you in the next video.